when we finished that song, we were like, this is the weirdest song on the record. Nobody's gonna like it. Like, we were like, we are going to deliver this to people and they're gonna be like, Horsegirl got freaky. And then as like people close to us started hearing it, it became clear to us that it like meant a lot and clearly signified a lot of what our new sound is like. But it was the last song that came together. Mm-hmm. And I remember like while we were recording, Nora was playing it for her parents and she texted us saying, my mom was like, why is the intro so long? It was just, like, it is moments like that where we just, you know, it was beautiful to make it in the studio and it really came together that way.
I feel like 2468 kind of speaks to this like transformation that we had throughout like the entire process of recording, because we came in with that song like very fragmented, and it was something that had started in my parents' basement as we were wrapping things up, preparing to go into the studio in Chicago. And I always remember like we were recording other songs and I had this feeling of like, what are we gonna do with this weird fragmented song that seems cool, but like I don't know what's gonna happen with it. And then I feel like it was kind of a testament to like just the comfortable like improvisational energy that we kind of stumbled upon in the session, that we were able to kind of explode the whole thing because we had practice with these other songs, fleshing out different kinds of arrangements. Mm-hmm. And like I remember with the vocals, Kate just sent us in and was like, just try something. Like don't overthink it. Don't try and like put anything on. Just kind of like it was really like the experience of writing something in the studio in a way that like I had never experienced, especially vocally, is very vulnerable to be coming up with words and melodies while there's a bunch of people listening. And then it just clicked in this really cool way, and the take of it is very live, and just I feel like there's this exciting energy of stumbling upon like a rhythm that speaks to just the energy of the whole recording session.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was interesting. That song was very out of like anything we've ever done, and then it ended up being kind of like representative of the sound of the whole album, I feel. And yeah, I remember a moment when we were listening back to it. At the end, like there's like a violin part that comes back, and it's like, wow. And I remember hearing it and like literally being scared of what we had created. It was scary.
Like the chorus of dying children.
It was a little bit, we kind of made it a little bit less haunting, but I think that was just a very strange experience of like, I can't believe we pushed ourselves to this place that like felt unfamiliar, but and then it feels but familiar and definitive for us as well.
Yeah, and
it was special.
It made so much sense, and I think finishing, like, writing all the songs with writing that one, it felt like, you know, the bookend, and it is really exciting that it's going to be the first single, because we've talked about this before, but it
is the first single.
Yes, it is the first single, and I think that it is just an exciting new thing to put out, like, as our first representation of our new record. And yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense, while also it is, we knew it and thought it was the freakiest song on the album. Oh, and when we started writing that song, like, it really came from the idea of getting lost in your own song and like lost in your own thoughts, and these ideas of like girlhood and playing with each other. Like
Oh, sorry, Ryan.
No. Just saying, we wanted that song to just go where it felt like it had to go.
Mm-hmm.
It changes time signature.
Yeah.
But it's the opposite of math rock.
Well said.
We had an image as we were first putting the song together, like before entering the studio, of like a little girl walking to school singing a song to herself, and the evolution that kind of like nursery rhyme that like a young girl would sing, and the turns it takes being very natural, but then you end up in a very different place than you started.
Yeah.
And I do feel like we maintained that spirit, even like though that song took a long time to finish.
Yes. And then it ended up being that very stream of consciousness in the way you guys had to do the vocals. Like
Right.
it really connected with that idea of making something up on the spot and it being
So true.
so simple and repetitive,
Yeah.
but it really effective. And I think that that's what makes the song like so appealing is that there's no repetition and also kind of only repetition because like the parts never go back to each other. You know what I'm saying?
Should we talk about how the song evolved?
Yeah.
Certainly.
Because I feel like the story of Julie is very, like, unusual for
It's
us,
such a story.
and it is such a story. But the song was first written on like acoustic guitar, and the lyrics and vocal melody were, I was just written on an acoustic guitar.
Mhm.
And we tried to crack it for a long time with the full band arrangement, and we were very kind of stumped. But we fleshed it out.
And we knew it was a beautiful song the whole time, you know, like we wanted it.
Right.
Like we couldn't figure it out.
It was not. It was kind of new for us because I feel like we had moved to New York, didn't have access to the same practice space. Like there was an acoustic guitar in the mix, and we were trying to kind of flesh the song out that had begun in an unusual way. And then we took it to the studio and recorded it with me playing the guitar part I had written and like Nora on bass, and then you were playing a synth.
Yes.
And then something happened where the engineer Tom, I don't know if it was on purpose or on accident, but turned down my
We turned off the guitar.
Yes.
Like for a second.
for a split second, flipped off the guitar track, and we heard it just as the bass line and the synth, and my vocals were really, really loud. And we all just looked at each other and were like, what? What is this?
Let's do it that way. Wait, what was that?
But it was also this like really nerve-wracking feeling of like we just took the guitar off the song, like what are we doing? And it was really haunting because it was like I was singing with this confidence that there's a guitar backing me, but there's like nothing. And it just is for me like one of the most beautiful moments on the record because it does just speak to this like really special thing that happened in our writing process of like I first wrote something on an acoustic guitar and then like the guitar wasn't on it and what became the entire song was my bandmates complimenting this guitar arrangement and then us agreeing that actually that was like the best part of the whole thing. So it was kind of a really emotional realization, I think.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And we like just would not have gotten there if Kate wasn't like, okay, Gigi, you go play the synth while they're doing this, and like I don't know.
Yeah. And then we added we did add guitar on it, but it's this weird like and then these like weird like sounds like a cat.
Yes, exactly.
And we were like, oh yeah, we like this idea. This is cool. Let's like do a pass, and then we'll perfect it. We'll redo it again later and like do everything how we want to. And we did that, and we kept listening back, and we were like, this just isn't working how we want it to work. So the what's on the actual song is just like the first run through that we ever did.
I was just gonna say similar to 2468.
Yeah.
Like we let ourselves like give into the process fully.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that the singles are the songs where we really gave into the
So
process.
true, so true.
But I also feel like it's worth talking about how much of a departure lyrically this song was for us, and I feel like personally the experience of writing these lyrics was just really crazy for me because it was one of the first times I sat down and like reflected on my personal experiences and like put that into a song I was writing. Wrote it after kind of like just having moved to New York, and I felt just like it was crazy to be in a new city, and it's sort of that feeling of young adulthood and being very overwhelmed by how new everything is, but then also kind of the excitement of it all. And it was also one of the first love songs I had ever written, which is just like a different kind of vulnerability. But then I also think it like gives you a different kind of connection to
A song.
the experience of writing music and releasing music. And I don't know, I feel like the experience lyrically of writing that song for me like opened up a lot of just possibilities about what writing lyrics like does for you as an artist and like how it can make a song really meaningful. So
And I think we have a lot of that on this record of like realizing ourselves more fully. Do I have paint on my face? Well, obviously. That's part of it.
It looks good. I'm so sorry.
Please, no. Love you, girl. But as I was saying, we have a lot of, I feel like, new types of lyric writing, and also just, I feel like it exposes how we have approached songwriting kind of, not differently, but just in a new way, because we are ever so slightly older than we were when we made versions of Modern Performance. And I think that Julie was, like you were saying, Penelope, was kind of one of the first songs that we had written for the new record that opened the doors for, we can reflect on our lives and, you know, actually talk about, like create art that feels fulfilling in that way of self-reflection, which I think we will only continue to do as we age.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that as the non-lyric writer. That was just my analysis.
Well, it used to be less of a banger because it was pretty slow.
Yeah.
And then we sped it up.
Yeah, that was like one of the first things. Like we got this email from Kate before we recorded of her just like going through our songs, which that was and saying what, you know, she would think we might do to
Push ourselves.
Yeah, to push ourselves. And that was the first moment of realizing like, oh shit, we are letting somebody in on this. Like this is going to be like a fourth collaborative member of this project. And one of the first things she said in that email was like, speed it up, you know, channel the fall. And then like that was it for Switch Over, and then we kind of just went into it with that thinking and just pushing it kind of almost as hard as we could, with Nora still being able to do the like down.
That part at the end is pretty punishing.
Yeah, I watch her do it on stage from behind, and I just see her arm like. It's like, I don't know.
It's all on one string. I would love to play on one string.
Mhm.
Yeah, that song like we wrote. It was another one that took a long time to come to like the finished form, and we toured on it.
It was totally different when we toured on it.
Right, like on our summer tour, the summer after versions of Modern Performance, and I think it's just another example throughout this whole like experience of just realizing how valuable it is to experiment with songs and try different things. And I also feel like the experience of writing that does make me think about like just the trio dynamic and us thinking about like having the bass six and having had more experience just playing together and like writing. I don't know, I feel like the interplay between the bass and the guitar part just speaks to having more experience with the bass six.
I mean, I used to play, for that song, I kind of play one note the entire song. It used to be more notes, and then we realized, like,
no need.
This is what's best for the song. And it's, I mean, it's like fairly simple, so it's kind of funny how many different forms it went through before we got to the final one.
So true. And all the changes we ended up making were very small.
Right.
Besides speeding it up.
Yeah.
But like it just took so long to get to that final point where we were like, should we just make this like a danceable, fun song? And then that was like the ultimate.
And it's much more
Good
fun
choice.
and less nerve-wracking to play live.
And it ends with applause.
Yes. It ends with applause on the track to, you know, emulate
To let you know.
the roaring fans.
Yes, exactly. That's why it's one person.
After
and
the
it sounds
hit
so
quit.
sad.
Yes, exactly. But, yeah. I think I'm excited that Switch Over is a single. I think that it is another good representation of, like, the more high-energy rocking stuff that we provide on this record.
The story of writing Frontrunner for me is it's a very touching memory because Nora and I are roommates in New York together, and Frontrunner was written on just a very emotional day. The kind of day that roommates see each other through when you live together.
Yeah.
And
We went to our living room and we like just started kind of playing on the acoustic guitar.
I think it was almost a moment of Nora and I were like, we need to just like have a day playing together, like to just kind of be a sweet distraction and something that we do as friends together. Which, funny enough, we wrote a song for Nora's cat that day.
Oh,
And then
yes.
we also wrote like a very tender, sweet love song together. And the version that was recorded is basically exactly what the voice memo demo version sounds like. And it was just the two of us on one very broken acoustic guitar and then my nylon acoustic guitar, right? And it was seriously just like one of those really sweet days where like you sit down together to like start playing in the living room, and then I remember it started getting darker, and then we were like, we should probably eat something, and then we made like a Trader Joe's rice cake frozen dish.
Oh yeah, that was that day?
Yeah, it was that. And then we ate that, and then we just like kept working on it, and then like the lyrics like completely came out in the writing process, and it all just like completely came together really, really quickly. And I still listen to that song and I just like think about that day, and it is a very it's just sweet that the version that was recorded kind of like captures what the moment of writing it was like. I don't know.
Totally. In the studio, we were ready for that song to just have no drums except for tambourine, and then the one hill Kate would die on would be for those bamboo sticks that I'm like, that's just a little like, and that was one of those like bamboo sticks, which I just found out from online are like used by hula dancers. It's like, it was one of the many things in the treasure trove of the Loft's percussion corner. Yes. And the most perfect tambourine.
Oh.
With a great sound that we heard Gwen stole. First song, man. Like, love it. That was one of the first songs we wrote for the album, I'm pretty sure. And that was one that came together, I feel like, really fast. And then we were like, all right, immediately, like, we have to play this live. Which was harder for songs that we've been sitting on, like Julie, where we knew there had to be time to sit on it to figure that one out.
Yeah.
But Where'd You Go came together immediately. And it's the first of the three of what we ended up referring to as the pop trilogy on the record. And if the pop trilogy is perfectly balanced throughout the record. There's like one that starts it, one in the middle, and then one that ends it. And
Looks great.
oh, thank you. But yeah, then we played it for the first time, I think at this show we had in Central Park, and everyone who's anyone was there, and it was definitely like it had the energy up. I think we opened with it, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
We
probably.
totally did.
Yeah,
It's okay, it's really easy.
it's really easy, and it's really quick, and it is a fun one to open with. That we've been opening with it basically since we wrote it, and then we opened the album with it.
Yeah. It was one of the first songs that we wrote for this record, and I agree with you on it coming together quickly. And I think it was one of those moments when like you're first starting to approach writing a new record where you try something new and you're like, oh cool, this seems like something new for us that we want to kind of continue to tap into. And like for us, it was Nora's guitar is in standard tuning, which is not something that we did a lot on the first record.
So daring for us.
No, but it was, and like Nora is playing two open chords, like the kind of chords that they first teach you when you learn guitar. And I think we were really excited to try writing like a pop song with regular chords and standard tuning and just like see what that would look like for us. And it was really exciting when it just kind of like clicked into place. And as Gigi said, it became the pop trilogy, and so it was kind of something that
It started the pop trilogy.
It started this idea of like we want to try writing songs with the kinds of chords that they first teach you when you want to learn guitar. Like we want to be able to write. Like we were excited at the idea of writing a pop song, basically.
And like Kate said, anything we will make will be janky. So I feel like we knew, like, us trying to make pop songs was going to end up sounding strange and weird. But it's like those songs to us felt like, at least for me, I felt like it was really like, this is the poppiest it could possibly get.
Well, it's like you say that, but there's only one lyric, and then there's a verse that's just la la la. So there was also an element of like, if we're gonna try writing a song with like standard tuning and regular chords, like we need to have this counterpoint of it can't just be like a pop song through and through. Like there has to be some kind of like repetitive element or strange off-putting thing going
Yeah,
on.
definitely.
And this was also a moment of experimenting with new textures because we have
Sonic textures.
we use these tiles, these like metal tiles called the gamelan tiles, and you like put them on a, what's it called?
A little like foam pad.
Yeah,
It's kind of like a xylophone, but all the pieces are
they're
separate.
individual.
Yes.
And they were just in a box, and they have like the note carved into them. So we had to sift through and find the right notes and put them on the foam blocks, and then like you just hit them with a mallet, and it just sounds like a messed up xylophone. Kate didn't let us use xylophone on the record, so that's why we had to dig into weird stuff like that. And thank God.
And thank God. So that's the like ring ding 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 that's in the song.
Kate was not controlling.
Kate was loving
The
it.
two
Kate was
hills
loving
she died on were the bamboo sticks and
Yeah,
the
the-
xylophone,
it.
which I was okay with.
Yes, I was okay with that.
She knew there were better options than xylophone in the Wilco law.
And I had no idea what those tiles were, and they sound awesome, and they're on multiple songs.
Yes, they became an integral part of.
And we played them together.
Yes.
So sweet.
Can't do anything apart.
No.
But I'm trying to think if they're.
There's a crazy Penelope rips a solo.
Yeah, Penelope rips her bass solo.
But it's guitar.
Oh, it's
When we play it live, it's bass.
When I do rip a live bass solo, and
It'll get you really excited about listening to the track.
the guitar solo on the track I think was like a one take wonder situation. I'm not to brag.
Humble brag.
That song was written really close to before we went. It was written right before going into the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, we had flown back to Chicago to record, and it was written like in that moment. Starting with the bass part.
Yeah, I remember you sending the voice memo to the
Yeah.
group chat, like, guys, what do you think about this bass part? And we were like, a whole new song for the record? Because we figured it out together.
And yeah, it is one of the pop songs. I'm not sure what to say about it.
It came very naturally after the energy of, like, writing Where'd You Go and I Can't Stand to See You. Because the pop trilogy, I feel like, only formed as a trilogy, like, towards, as the album making process, like, as the recording came closer to us.
I think like that song to me is one of those moments where I'm like just so impressed by Nora's guitar playing, because the part you wrote,
So simple.
yeah, but it
Yeah.
has this like really off time guitar strum that's really janky, but it like has this really strange momentum. Wait, am I thinking of a different song?
It's in both.
It's in both. So then it becomes this like thing that you reprise.
Yes. That song comes, I Can't Stand to See You. No. Well, I Know You're Shy comes before I Can't Stand to See You, but I Can't Stand to See You was written first. So in our heads, it's like that strumming pattern. This doesn't matter, actually.
Yeah. I guess lyrically it is another love song that
I suppose.
I suppose it is. I'm gonna start that over. It was another love song written for the record, and it is interesting to have written this and just reflect on like how the record feels like it kind of just captures like really specific moment in all of our lives of
Mhm.
the experience of moving to another city and like all of the parts of life that come after being 18 and between being 21.
The
and,
horrors that come from being
Horrors.
18, 19, and 21.
And it does feel like just an interesting snapshot of the moment right before we went to record.
Mm-hmm.
And
now it's like before it comes out, it will have been a whole year.
yeah.
And I think that all of the songs really, I don't know, they've changed with us since the moment we've written them. To like Julie was one of the first songs we wrote, and then we sat on it for so long, and then we recorded it, and then now we're sitting on it even longer. And I think you can write a song and it can mean one thing to you when you write it, and then over time it is just like a part of your body of work, and it changes with you and grows with you. And I think that sitting on the record and taking the time we have had, like writing the record, I think, really emphasized that to us of what it means to us when it comes out or when we write it or when we recorded it is not what it's gonna mean forever.
Yeah.
And
Like-
my apologies. Go.
In the same way that different people, like an audience, interpret songs differently, it's like with time we kind of like interpret our own
Yeah.
lyrics differently. And this being like the first time we kind of wrote lyrics in this way where we were thinking more about content,
Mm-hmm.
that has been an interesting experience, like understanding lyrics differently just with time. And like they're still relevant, but they're relevant in a different way.
Beautifully put, Nora.
Thank you. Both of them are helping me out here.
That song,
Another one that was so quick when we
well,
wrote it.
honestly, it was really quick. We wrote it in our studio in
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. I remember that we were having trouble with the verses, and then Gigi went to the bathroom. And
As
no
soon as
toilet
I- as
paper
soon
in
as
that
I
studio.
found out.
No toilet paper, so Gigi's gone a while. And then we just like cracked the verse, and Gigi came back. Sorry, not to discredit you.
Yeah, like
You do great things on that song, but I don't know. It was cool how that one came together. Just like the dual vocals in the verse was a big thing to
yeah.
making it work.
Mm-hmm. I'm playing it back in my head.
The way I remember I Can't Stand to See You coming together is that Nora just dropped a voice memo in our group chat
And we were like, this is a hit.
that was very compelling and finished from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But how cool. I feel like something that was added was the final section.
The final section
We cracked in the studio. Yeah.
That as well as
But that was a section we wanted the whole time.
we didn't know how to finish it.
Yeah, we were just like, okay, we need this moment where the vocals hit in this like emotional but also propulsive way, and mixed with the drum fills, like the type of song you'd be playing along to in like your friend's car type vibe.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yes. And that has
Oh no.
that song is full of normal chords, like the C chord and
We're
D
loving
minor?
those.
D minor is a big one in the outro.
I think it became a joke for us because we were like, Nora wrote a song in D minor.
I
We're not in D minor, but with D minor. And just, if you had been in the studio with us when we were writing versions of Modern Performance, there were no D minor chords.
There were no D minors.
It was all
I
straight
hadn't even heard of it.
strings. But I also feel like talking about that song, there was a really special moment in the studio with kind of the piano arrangements and
Oh, yeah.
the way that song got fleshed out it was like a late night kind of situation where we ended up taping a contact mic onto the inside of some really strange a Rhodes, and we described it as a very ceramic sounding like whacking sound.
Yeah, because it was like you hear the sound of the like mallet in that's what
Whacking
I
in
guess
the
the
piano?
contact mic
Yes.
was picking up. But that's also layered with a normal piano.
Yeah.
There's like a higher part, and that's the Rhodes, and then but the rhythm of it was so strange, but it just sounded. It's a very special sound that I don't think that you will ever be able to replicate, and that's special.
But that was kind of the spirit of the whole session, was this idea of exploring and then falling in love with one accidental sound and following that to the end of the path, and then ending up like layering all of the different versions of that weird violin or piano or whatever it ended up being. And it was just the two of us sitting on that piano playing that part, and then I feel like we were doing it in different timings so many times that it ends up having like a really strange, playful, childlike quality that is literally just the effect of us figuring out the part in the studio. And so like so many of those playful moments on the record are the result of experimentation and us not knowing what the part is going to be and then finding it along the way, which gives it, like, you feel the excitement of us discovering the sound. At least to me, like, that's what I hear when I listen to those parts, and that was just a really new experience for us that we didn't have in the way that we recorded, like, our first record.
And then the way we use it in that song is so strange, of it coming in the end, like, so loud, kind of taking over everything. I feel like is one of the most exciting aspects of that song.
And then the album ends.
Yeah, and then the album ends. And another just short, sweet pop song, but that you guys wrote with normal chords, but it remains so strange and so weird.
Yeah, it has a strange rhythmic guitar.
Yeah. Yes, so true. And it was just fun. And writing that song and the whole pop trilogy, I was extremely inspired by power pop drumming at that moment, and I think that was something I was able to bring as like, guys, I'm very excited about this way of drumming, and I feel like it made so much sense for these like almost basic pop songs we were trying to write. But obviously it's janky because we were doing it.
Okay, so Rock City I think was the first song
Yeah.
that we wrote.
I thought it was Sport Meets Sound.
I don't know.
Or was it Rock City?
Rock City was really, really different at the beginning.
So true, yeah.
And it was the first song we wrote in our rehearsal space in New York. And that song is so strange. I feel like my process writing that guitar part was really unusual for me, and I hit a lot of walls whenever I'm trying to write a guitar part for Horsegirl, because I've kind of accidentally just become a bassist, even though I've played guitar my whole life, which is something I have to work through. And now I'm more comfortable in bass than I am on guitar. And the process of writing that guitar part was really strange, and it is in a weird tuning, which is something we were trying to veer away from on this record. But granted, this was an early. This was written early in the process, so I think we were still also experimenting with weird tunings.
Yeah.
And I think on this song we were thinking a lot about how to fill space as a trio, and the idea of Nora playing the same bass part and the verse and chorus changing with another instrument, bringing a new melody over the same bass part, was really exciting to us, and that idea was sort of like one of the beginning ideas of wanting to write a minimal record and wanting to push ourselves to try to understand the limits of the trio dynamic, and I don't know, but it took a long time to come together.
Yeah. That was one that, I mean, we sat on the idea of it for a long time, but it felt like once it was recorded and made in the studio, it felt so fully thought through, and I think that, like I was saying earlier, I feel like us sitting on something for that long really helped us find the way that we wanted to fill space and not fill space and work it out perfectly with us three.
Or we pushed ourselves to go into the studio with that one, with the idea of like something could very well be added to this, and like we want to push this one in the studio. And there was a moment, I feel like it started with this song, but I don't know, with that synth.
Yeah. It was like a Japanese synth that was used for poetry readings.
Oh.
That
my brother figured that out.
I think that Kate told us that.
Isaac or Kate?
But yeah, it was very non-intuitive. The way the notes ascended and descended. It was kind of random. It was like, why is this note higher, but it's closer to the left?
Yeah, it was just buttons.
It was very weird. It was just buttons, not in English. But there were a bunch of different sounds. And the sound that we use it on Rock City, and we also use it on Sport Meets Sound. We also use it on Sport Meets Sound.
And those two are sister songs.
Those two are sister songs. There's a lyrical motif in both of them.
That's why I would say they're sister songs.
And they both use the synth. But we layered the synth with piano. Because the synth alone sounded kind of like Japanese spa vibes.
Certainly. We had to break some of the spa vibes.
That was a really cool instrument. And also because it was so non-intuitive, even to somebody who knew how to play keys, which is none of us.
Which is Kate Lamont.
She did not touch it. Sorry. Even to somebody who would know how to play keys, it's kind of like with that instrument, you would still have to approach it
Right.
as something that you don't know how to play because it's not musically intuitive. So I feel like
We needed a poet.
that's like a little issue. We needed a poet. We became poets for that.
Yes. That's so sweet. And you became poets on those bars.
Yeah.
Of the lyrics of that song.
That song the lyrics for that song, I think they started from something that my grandpa said once. He said that I ripped this directly, so
So awkward.
that he wanted someday. He said that when he was younger, he wanted someday to drive a flower truck because it smells nice and everyone's always happy to see you. And I kind of stole that exactly and then wrote some other stuff around it. But I just thought I was like,
this whole time I was like, how did Nora come up with that?
I didn't come up with
So inspired.
it.
But it was in the family.
It just it was in the film.
So fair game.
A narrative grew from that sentiment.
The lyrics to that song get me good.
Oh.
It's like it represents, I feel like, a beautiful loneliness that is really on this record that we experienced in the horrors of 18, 19, 20, 21.
Oh my god.
Would you guys agree?
Yes. Sure. My grandfather as a lens for our horrors.
For our horrors of
19, 20, 21.
One other thing I wanted to say, going back to the process of writing it and this being a moment of like stumbling upon an exciting sound for like the rest of the record early on, is I feel like the ending of the song was when we first started it and we were like, I don't know where this is gonna go, this doesn't feel finished. We were like, but the ending, this idea of speeding up and this kind of, to us, there was something kind of krautrock about the repetition of the ending, and we just knew that was something that we wanted on the record, and it totally came together in the recording. But and Kate kind of like honed the whole thing because she thought it was kind of sudden. We were like, no, but the suddenness is what we like about it, and then I feel like she was totally right.
Yeah,
but
and it's still very sudden, but it used to be, it would just automatically go into like the but then Kate was like, how about the
If
And I
that
think
makes
that-
any sense.
Yeah,
she made it more chic, I think.
definitely. And
So-
she made it have more of a progression to this really energetic moment of the song. And I think that we were really drawn to the idea of this explosion at the end that only lasts for a second. So everybody in the crowd would get excited and be like, oh my god, what's going on now? And then it's over. So, and I think that we certainly achieved that when we played that song live.
Sport Meets Sound is one of the first songs we wrote. And it's not written in standard tuning. It is open E.
Sport Meets Sound to me feels like, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I feel like that was the first song that we were like, felt really confident about. This is the new sound that we want to have. And still, I'll listen to the recorded version of that song, and it really if there was one song that I feel like represented the whole sound of what we are going for on our new record, I feel like that one is a really good one to point to.
I feel like we were hitting this moment where the last time we had made a record, we were high schoolers living with our families in Chicago, and since then we had moved to New York, and what we had been listening to had changed a lot, and so much in our lives had changed, and we knew that we wanted to try something really different, but we didn't know exactly what it was going to sound like, although we had some sort of very unified vision.
Yes.
And writing Sport Meets Sound felt like a moment where we were like, this repetition, this ending, the kind of propulsive energy, but the clean guitar was a really important thing to kind of snap into place. And I just remember writing that song and having this sense of calm about the fact that we were writing a new record. Because I just felt like I have this idea of what I want this to sound like, and it's almost like a visual in my head, you know, of the dynamic between the three of us, and then I felt like we really found it, and I just felt like really calm that it could exist. Because I didn't know yet, you know.
Definitely, and I think it was a really validating moment of all three of us are on the same page yet again. And because I think it was hard to think about what was going to come after our first record. And because that was everything we had made as a band thus far.
Or it could be hard, but it ended up not being so hard for us.
It ended up being like, as soon as we just put our heads together and we're like, this is what we want, this is kind of what we're going for, and we wrote Sport Meets Sound, I feel like that is when it all clicked of, we are doing this, not only can we do this, but we are, and I don't know, at least for me personally, it really proved myself to myself.
Totally.
And proved that, you know, we can do this for a long time, and I feel so confident about us three collaborating in just when we need to.
It's also
No, go ahead.
it's crazy because it was one of the first songs off the new record we wrote, and I think it's the song that changed the least from writing to recording.
So true.
So I guess it's like kind of in a sense, early on we were still figuring out, we didn't know what was going on, but we had this vision.
Yes.
And like that was important. Yeah.
We had something to point to. We had one song that was done.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like on writing a second record, I discovered like the really beautiful moment of you're writing something and then you reference your own music. Like the feeling of writing something and being like, I want to write something that sounds like this moment in Sport Meets Sound. And you realize that you're starting to build on this kind of thing that the three of us have created, and it's a really exciting feeling to start pointing at a sound that you're like discovering together, and that's why I feel like writing that song just became like such a big confidence booster for us in the process of writing the full record.
And what I was gonna say. But I completely agree. It was such a confidence boost. Still is. Great song, love it. About information content. The title says it.
We actually wrote that in Chicago.
That was also oddly that came at the
crazy.
same time that the first version of Rock City formed. So it was way early on.
Yeah, it was early on. And then the lyrics were written like we were already in the studio.
That was like the last lyrics
It was
written.
the night before we recorded the vocals for that. The lyrics were written. I guess that to me that song's like about botched communication.
Miscommunication.
And it's kind of like the song's trying to communicate itself to the audience, but that's not even working.
Yeah.
And then it ends in like this
The anti-solo.
And then fade out.
Everything fades out except for the guitar, and there were some weird beads on the cymbal.
Oh yes. The final like minute of that song when Nora is anti-soloing, I just had these like the beads that you normally pin to like your ride cymbal. I was just like running them around one of the crash cymbals and like kind of just I had Nora's solo in my headphones and I was just kind of going along with that. But it created something very strange because what drum part is trying to go with the anti-solo that's already anti? And I think that one of the beginning ideas for that song was the way that it falls apart in the end. And I think that informed a lot of what, I mean, Nora wrote the lyrics, but I feel like it ended up informing what the song feels like it's about, of just like losing yourself in this process and kind of getting overwhelmed by all these things. And then in the end it ends so like with the like and it's just, I don't know, trying to walk that line of losing yourself in something while also kind of hitting it really hard and like getting crazy.
What you were saying about the anti-solo, sorry, I had a thought and now I'm forgetting it.
Sorry.
No, I want to talk about space on the record because I feel like that was a really important thing in our minds as we were writing and in the studio, and it's sweet to see where the song ended up because what I remember of writing this is it was just one of those moments where we unlocked like playing with empty space on these songs and like embracing really strange empty space. And because in the earliest version which we wrote in our friend Kai's, the studio he was using in Chicago at the time, just like the use of space in the song. And I feel like when we first wrote it, we had this moment at the end that still is there in the final version where Nora ends up taking a solo over nothing and then it becomes this kind of abstract cymbal solo as well. And one thing that we just were really trying to do with this record, and we kind of had this idea from the start of writing it, was just leaning into kind of the fact that the three of us are a trio and embracing the moments of emptiness that come up in anytime you see a live trio play live. It's just, there will be moments where there's a strange space, and kind of leaning into the fact that we're a trio and how cool emptiness can be in a song. And having that on that song was just like a moment of figuring it out.
Yeah. I think we thought a lot more, I mean, it is something we've always had to think about, is being a trio, but I think that we wanted to use it much more intentionally this time around, and we were just thinking about the space in our songs in a whole new way, and what like one of us gives and the other has to take or fill something else or let something just exist without, something filling it up.
And in general, all of us being okay in different moments with just playing one note for a whole song, or one bass line for a whole song, or just playing one drum. Just those moments, I think, was what made the record feel really special.
Yeah, and we really had a big focus on minimalism and how we can pare things down rather than make them
Which
huge.
you can see we've embraced.
Well, yes, our minimalist. But, I mean, it even goes with, like, our album cover and stuff like that. I feel like we wanted to do the most with kind of the least we possibly could. But, obviously, there's a lot of different textures and sounds and stuff.
Right. Like, we wanted to incorporate different textures and sounds without overcomplicating it and getting lost, like losing the song in
Like
the ability to experiment.
Or realizing that pairing back allowed us to go into the studio and have the experience we ultimately had. Oh, look at what you've been up to.
Peas, very cute.
Peas.
Well, Into's, aw,
So cute, Nora.
I want to move that please. That was another, like Julie, that was a love song written on an acoustic guitar originally, that also we kind of had a hard time cracking, I feel.
It required us sitting on it.
Into's was, like Julie, a love song that began on an acoustic guitar that kind of took a moment to flesh out into what it ultimately became. But I was saying that I will tell a college dorm story because there was an element of this record where I was living in a college dorm while we were still writing it.
Mm-hmm.
Nora, you were not. And I had the corner room on the 14th floor and this crazy view of New York that just everything looked very small and it was very different from my view in Chicago. And I think that the lyrics in that song are like began as just kind of a reflection of watching everything, like a city move past you, and like just sort of some just heartache of that age, being 18.
No one knows the horrors.
And but then I feel like there was a sweet moment of taking it to the studio and things got changed around and lyrics shifted and the song changed a lot, and so it doesn't even feel like it's stuck in that time for me. Like it does feel very much like a reflection of where I was at. It, you know, Nora and I also worked on that one together, the lyrics. Which there was kind of a sweet element this record as well of like Nora and I coming to each other with our little notebooks and being like, can we work on lyrics together? But they were like super vulnerable in a way that they had never been for us before, and being like, okay, I know this is kind of ridiculous. And then the other one being like, no, it's great.
It's
like
beautiful.
I love hearing this about your life. And we had like, obviously we lived together, we all lived blocks away from each other. And I think there was a sweetness to working on lyrics together, giving each other feedback on things that we had like seen each other through, and just the intimacy of our friendships, and also just trying to tap into those lived experiences a little bit more lyrically this time.
I think us moving to a new city together and already being high school best friends, but then growing into being young adult best friends, I think we have seen each other through a lot, and I think that in the process of hearing you guys write the lyrics, I think it really did just emphasize the intimacy of our friendship and our collaborative relationship, because without even really saying, you know, directly what anything is about or anything like that, I think we all just know each other. We know each other's lives, and we've experienced really similar things because we've experienced so much together. And I think that In Twos especially was one of the first songs that we wrote that really like made me emotional and was able to like help me when I would, you know, feel sad or something.
That's really sweet.
Yes, like the demo of it I would listen to so much just to get me through the days. And I think that was a really special moment for me, as just us as collaborators, is knowing you guys so closely and being able to connect with things that we've all seen and gone through, and we all moved here together, and we all went through living in a dorm, and it's like just the ridiculousness. But our love prevails, obviously.
In threes.
Oh yes, this one in threes. But this one is the sister song of 2468.
Oh, because there's a...
They both have.
They
Well, they
both
have
say,
an
"We walk
overlapping
into
line."
da-da-da-da-da-da." Like that is how the 2468 lyrics started. Is like you were riffing off of the
That's true.
In Twos.
Yeah, that's true.
And then at first we were gonna name 2468 In Twos, but then we decided let's not do that. Let's get confusing a little bit. But 2468 makes perfect sense for the title of that song, and In Twos makes perfect sense for this one. I'm Gigi.
I'm Penelope.
I'm Nora. I'm Nora.
Sweet.